Let's talk lastly about the Hells Angels, which is what you were part of for a couple of years. What was it like? Just give us an idea what it was like when you got in and, the experience of going through it.
I'll tell you what it wasn't like. It wasn't like the stereotype that that America holds of bikers. These guys were not like this pack of greasy, slimy, dirty, motorhead drug addicts. Were there people within that world that fit that stereotype? Of course there were. But they were smart. They were especially street smart. They conducted themselves socially a lot of times fairly, pleasantly. I didn't find that I was riding around with guys who were just like getting on a motorcycle to go out at night looking for someone to have their head caved in. They were focused. They were organized. Now, they weren't necessarily all of them book smart, like college educated book smart, but they have their PhDs in the street. They have their PhDs in violence and intimidation. And the motivating factor in it was hate and was money.
Hate for what, though? What did they hate?
They hated their adversaries. They hated people that were trying to, that either insulted them, that were disrespectful of them, that wanted to infringe on their territory, which the infringement on territory then comes back to money, is because that's where money's made. That's where money's made in crime, in narcotics distribution, in prostitution, and all those things. The territory you control and you own expands or retracts your area of operations. So
what was your time when you were there? What years were you undercover?
2001 through 2003.
Oh, so you were at the Laughlin event. So were you at the Laughlin event?
I was
April 27th, 02?
Yes. I was at a party with the Hells Angels when the call came in, and they all left the party that I was at and went to the Harrah's Casino and got in the big brawl and the shootout that was all captured on the casino cameras. And
yeah, and I mean, that looks brutal. What happened over there looks absolutely brutal. What took place? That's the big event they talk about.
I think it was a demonstration of the brazenness, and I think it was a demonstration of the commitment and the brotherhood and the loyalty that they could rally up together that quickly. They could move their location that quickly. And then when they arrived on scene, they did not care. Everybody knows a gambling casino has got 10,000 cameras around watching everything. They didn't care. And I thought a very interesting element is that when the battle settled, there were Mongol vests strewn around where they had stripped off their colors trying to escape, stuffed in air vents, stuffed in garbage cans. Mm-hmm. Some were seen floating down the river. It was the casino was on the Colorado River. Not one Hells Angel vest was recovered. Those guys did not, would not take off their colors. They were so committed to that patch, to that death head, to that name. They were gonna win that fight or die trying, but they were not gonna take those cuts off.
So you're saying the Hells Angels were more proud and brutal than Mongols were? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I'd use those terms, but I'll say this: the prospecting process, the phases for a Hells Angel are extensive and they're long. Like a minimum mandatory 365 days prospecting as a Hells Angel before you can even be considered to get your cut.
Yeah, I saw that.
Other gangs like give them out very quickly. Give them like there was times.
Got it.
Where the Mongols were actually approaching street gang members saying, "Hey, here's a Mongol's vest. Learn how to ride a motorcycle."
The
right?
Sureños. Are you talking about the Sureños when they showed up and they brought a bunch of
Sure,
Sureños in?
sure. So whoever that organization is, if if you have to work for something, if you have to suffer for something, if you have to sacrifice for something, it's more important to you. That is why organizations, not just in biker land, sports teams, all those things, you suffer and sacrifice and spend time so that when you get it, it has meaning. And those angels, they know that what they went through to get that cut, and they were not going to give it up. Whereas if someone from another biker gang, if it just got handed to you, what meaning does that truly have? What value does that truly have?
That makes sense. So standards and expectations were higher. Maybe that's a way of putting it. To get in and become a made man essentially for Hell's Angels was higher than it was to become a Mongol.
Well, then when you're a member of the Hell's Angels, you are at the top of the biker mountain. You are the king of the mountain. Any housewife, any mechanic, any school teacher, police officer, if you say biker, automatically what comes into their mind is the Hell's Angels. Yeah. And when you were at the top of the mountain, everybody underneath you wants to knock you out. Everybody wants that position. And so their adversaries are everybody. Everybody wants to be them. And so what does that do? That creates paranoia in them. Everybody's after us. Everybody hates us. Everybody wants to be us. And that's a bad formula, man. That's bad chemistry.
Bad chemistry, why? Because you think internally people are dividing you and maybe somebody on the inside is going to go and tip off what we're doing, strategies. Is that what it is?
You're paranoid. You're worried about maintaining your status. You know that everybody wants to be the king of the mountain. You know what? If you're the heavyweight champion of the world, you don't get to just say, I'm the new heavyweight champion of the world. You got to knock that cat out to take the belt. And they know that everybody wants to come and knock them out.
That's right. That is right. So just to put some optics out there, some numbers out there, Hell's Angels, 2,500 members, Mongols, 500. Hell's Angels had 230 different chapters. Mongols had like 12 different chapters. Hell's Angels, the founder was Sonny Berger? Sonny Barger. Sonny Barger is the founder. And then you have on the other side with Mongols was what's his name? Roger Penny. Am I saying it right?
He was a member. He was a shot caller there. Yes.
He was a shot caller at the time. So when these guys were facing off each other, and you are kind of going in with your partner Pops, and he's also an ATF. By the way, he does not look like an ATF agent. Like he is a qualified. I couldn't even tell like this. He looked like a guy that was partying all the time, using drugs and women. He's either an incredible actor or he got really deep into it.
Well, let me qualify that just a little bit. Pops was a confidential informant.
He was not ATF.
So he was in essence working with us, for us, but he was not a badge carrying agent. He was a confidential informant.
So how long had he been himself with Hell's Angels?
Well, he'd been with them the same time I was with them. I brought him with me, but like you hit it on the head, there's no faking Pop's life's experiences that brought him to that point in time. You cannot train through that. You can't fake that. You had to have lived that life to look and act like that cat did.
Did you trust him?
I did. I trusted Pops. I had built, loyalty with him well before we worked the Hell's Angels case.
Got it.
I've worked on many operations with him, and I did trust him. And
because I wonder sometimes, I'm like, could you even trust him? You know, like if he's your partner, can you fully trust him? Because maybe he can be bought with, money, women, drugs. I mean, what's his motive?
He made some mistakes along the way. He got a little bit loose at times. He needed to be tightened up, and jerk his leash, keep him online. Yeah. But did I trust him? To answer that question as simply as it was asked, did I trust him? Yes, I did.
That's good. That's interesting. Yeah, that dynamic is, you always wonder, especially now that you're telling me he was an ATF. He was just somebody as an informant that was helping out. how far did you have to go to show loyalty? You know, how far did you have to go to show loyalty? Meaning, hey, did you drugs, women, crime, killing, shooting? How far did you go where they said, damn, this guy is actually legit?
Well, I can answer that with one story. Um, when I first came into the Hells Angels, I approached the leadership and said, "What are the rules? What do you expect of me? I want to be a good Hells Angel. I'm in training." And the leader of my charter said, "It's your job to kill Mongols. That's what we do." So for, in essence, 2 years, I took that information and put it in my back pocket, right, and held on to that mindset, that mantra. As the case was beginning to end, I told the Hells Angels, there's a Mongol in Mexico, and he's threatening us and threatening to like import narcotics into our area, and I need to go down there and kill him. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go kill him on behalf of the gang. The people I spoke to were 100% behind it. Gave me the gun to do it, told me how to do it, all these things, right? So go to Mexico, kill this Mongol, bury him in a shallow grave, take some pictures of them all bloodied up and shot up and beaten, bring them back to the Hells Angels, tell the Hells Angels the story of how we had killed the Mongol in Mexico and gave them hard, cold evidence of the murder. That is ultimately what got us over the top, where they gave us vests and made us members. What they didn't know and what we didn't tell them is that entire scheme was a fabrication. I had told the Angels about this Mongol in Mexico, and then with the use of our team and a homicide detective, we went out in the desert outside of Phoenix and completely fabricated a murder scene. And then took the evidence that we had created from our homemade murder, put it in a FedEx box, had it shipped to my undercover house from Mexico so that it would look right, be credible, all those things, presented the information to the Hells Angels. And, one of the elements that's key to undercover work is inaccurate conclusions from accurate observations. Inaccurate conclusions from accurate observations. They accurately heard my story. They accurately saw the bloody Mongol vest. They saw the pictures of the Mongol in the shallow grave in the desert with his hands and his feet duct taped and his brains spilled out in the dirt. They accurately saw that. They inaccurately concluded that I was telling them the truth and had committed a murder. And so when you say when your question, how far did we have to go to gain acceptance? We went to the acceptance where we built a homicide and then sold the fact that we were murderers to murderers in order to get inside the gang.
Is it true that you used the cow's stomach to make it seem like the brain was shot up?
There were cow parts. We went to a butcher. Our homicide detective went to a butcher. We had cow blood. We had cow parts. Like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of dead bodies, but when I looked at this crime scene, I was like, oh my God, that dude's dead. There was no doubt in my mind, this dude's dead.
When I talk to Phil Leonetti, or I talk to Sammy, or I talk to Michael, or Frank Collado, or any of these guys that were in the mob world, I ask him, how much was because, in the mob side, it's more about the lifestyle. You have money, you're rich, you're partying, codes, all this stuff. And then there's the code you live by. But there's women, there's partying, there's that other attractive part to it as well, New York. Was there hardcore partying going on as well? Or you were saying, no, girls with 3 missing tooth and all that stuff? Or were you guys partying with women nonstop?
There was both. There were guys that were professionals and partied like no one else, right? There was also guys that I ran around with who went to the gym 3 times a day and didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't use drugs, meal prepped, set their alarms for 3 o'clock in the morning so they could get up and eat a chicken breast because they needed an infusion of protein. And there was everything in between, which was good. It made it interesting, and it also made it You didn't have to fit into one box to be accepted because there were so many different types of people.
Got it. So you don't have a crazy party story with them?
Oh man, there's parties, like cocaine bashes and nitrous oxide parties and girls running around and music blaring and booze flowing and fights and people fucking in the corner and all that kind of stuff.
That was normal. That was a normal life for that.
You know what? I don't know that I would say it was normal, but it wasn't abnormal.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.